Welcome to the Winning in Business podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Rissy, and I love talking to business professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs who are winning in business. Are you ready to reach your next level of success? If so, join us on the Winning in Business podcast as I interview entrepreneurs, business professionals, and leaders who share how they've risen to success. Before we begin, go ahead, hit subscribe and the notification button so you'll be notified each time a new episode is released. Plug in and settle in. You're about to be inspired to rise up to your next level of success. Welcome back to another episode of Winning in Business. Today, I am really excited about my guest. Her name is Shelly Niehaus, and Shelly is a business coach and personal branding strategist on a mission to empower service-based solopreneurs over 40. And if that is not you, I invite you to still stay tuned in because she is a wealth of knowledge. Her passion is to help people get more clients with simple marketing strategies that work. Shelly is also the host of the top-rated podcast, Educated, Empowered, Inspired, which ranked at an all-time high of number 10 in the business marketing category. Her podcast aims to empower entrepreneurs one conversation at a time. Beyond her coaching and podcasting, Shelly finds joy in the mountains of Boise, Idaho, sharing outdoor adventures with her husband and twin boys. Shelly, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to dive into all the fun topics you just talked about.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So share, I know a little bit of your story. So share how it is that you ended up doing what you're doing. And I think part of your journey is how you ended up in Boise as well. So kind of, give the listeners the rundown of just you and how you ended up here.
Okay. Well, so the first thing I've learned in my life is to pivot because I've learned that life brings you all kinds of things. So I started out in corporate America doing the corporate thing, left corporate America, and that was in 2004. And I have had 20 years of owning my own business in 3 different service-based industries. So I enjoyed it. I loved it. I had fun, but I always found that no matter what industry I was working at, I got more excited about the marketing and building all of the content and just really showing up and teaching people and empowering them through conversation. And that was where I got excited. And so I would spend more hours creating my marketing plan and my marketing content versus whatever I was supposed to be doing in that industry. Fast forward to my last job. I was a photographer for 10 years in the Dallas area, and I worked as a headshot and then it became a branding photographer. So I would show up to corporations and mainly small businesses that had under 40 employees, and I would take their photos. And during the photo session, I would, my marketing brain would turn on and I would say, oh, you could do this with this content and you could do this with this content. And the whole conversation was not only about their photos, but like all the ideas I had. And finally they started saying, will you just come and do a follow-up with us and help us with all this marketing? Because we don't know how to really use the photos. We don't know how to use the content. So it kind of just evolved into, I would sit down with them before the photo session and we would really get clear on their avatar and who they serve and what we need to do. We would go into the session and create the content. And then I would do a post session and really help them develop their marketing strategy. And that's just what I was my wheelhouse. I loved it. And would probably still be doing it, except for in 2021, we decided to pack up and move across the country. We just decided that we were ready for a change. We had lived in the Dallas area our whole life, and my husband had always wanted to live in the mountains of Idaho, back to learning to pivot. And I said, okay, well, why not? So we did. And when I got here, I thought, okay, I'm just going to be a photographer. I'll rinse and repeat. I've done this. I got this. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't work out that way. All the doors closed. I'll just be honest with you, all the doors closed. And the financial faucet for the photography was turned off. And I know it's because I was supposed to be doing something else at that time. And all the doors opened for coaching. I had people calling me, asking me to help them. And it just, I never started out saying, I want to be a business coach. but this was the lane. So this is now where I am. And I love it. I just love, I feel like in this season of life, I'm really called to help people that are really good at what they do. I've found that in so many industries, you've got great photographers, great physical therapists, but they're really good at what they do, but they just need some help with the business. And that's where I get excited to come alongside them and just help them with that.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, so then for you, like let's start with your business, just you as a business owner. What ahas can you provide that have just made you successful over the years in your business? One of them you stated very clearly was learn how to pivot.
Yes.
Right? Be ready to pivot, know how to pivot well. What are some other ahas?
Well, just one more thing on that learning to pivot, because it was hard for me to learn, because when you maybe put 10 years in an industry, you have all these accreditations or these clients and all this stuff that's accumulated. And I was really white knuckling that. So it was a whole process for me to learn that just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to do it forever. And you can let go of it and move into that next season. And that's just part of each season is a stepping stone into the next one. So that's the first one. I think the one that really has mostly impacted my business is I want to build a business that allows me to build a life. Like, I don't want to, when I first started, is back in the hustle culture and, all the big influencers that were like, do the grind, were really popular at that time. And I was killing myself. My family suffered, I suffered. And I finally was like, why? Why? Like, what is the purpose of this? And so now I run every decision that I make through, is this leading to the life that I want to live? Is this leading to my end goal? And I want to make sure that it's in alignment with who I am. And I'm not just, going to 6 or 7 figures because that's what the person on the other line, the influencer, tells me that's where I need to be. And I really believe in living seasonally, both like in the year and in your life. And I've had a season right now where I have had high school kids and I want to be at their football games and I want to go to their lacrosse games. So I'm willing to put my business, just in a season of that. And then when they, go to their next, when they're in college, I can double down and work harder if I want to, or whatever. So I really think it's building a business, and that starts with looking at your season of life and making sure that that's in alignment with who you are. So that's the first aha that I found, and I really do that.
Yeah. I think that is so important for business owners, because if you don't do that, you're burning out. You're going to the grind. I mean, your body, your family, like everything, you can only take that for so long, right? And then you're going to end up burning out. And as business owners, we can't afford to burn out. You know what I mean? Like, there might be jobs out there that you might be able to burn out a little bit and somebody else can pick up the slack. But as business owners, we just can't afford to do that. So we truly need to be thinking long haul, long term. How are we doing this that can, and I also think we go into business to have the life that we want. That's the whole purpose of doing it, right? And I love that you just return and ask that question before those decisions. And I think, that's so important. And I know you also coach business owners on, because we've had this conversation, that you have to say no to things, right? It's that fear. You got to get rid of that fear of missing out, knowing that you're doing what's best for you.
And it is easy for all of us that are business owners to become workaholics, and because we love what we do, and it doesn't feel like work. And I can go and spend 2 hours or 5 hours on a Saturday. And yes, but at the end of the day, it is working. And so you have to realize that sometimes you do have to put those boundaries on there. And that was just a lesson I really had to learn the hard way. But now that I'm on the other side, I'm not on the other side, but now that I at least have the knowledge, I can see it coming before, because we all have those seasons where we kind of lean into it, but then we're like, okay, this is got to stop. This is not sustainable. So
yes. Yeah. Good. Okay. Give us another.
All right. I think the next one is, I like to go deeper with a smaller group of people in this world. And this is one of the things that I was so fortunate to have a mentor early on teach me, that there's in the world now, everyone is, scale this, scale that, followings. And that didn't feel authentic to me. It just didn't feel authentic. And I love conversations. I love community. So when I think of even my own, coaching, I think of, am I building a community? I don't think of them as client or leads. I don't really like the word leads because there are real people with real lives on the other end of that term. And so when I think about it, they've got bank accounts and they've got, mortgages and like they're real people. So I really want to think about the people that I work with as community and how can I impact them and not just, leads and lead gen and all those terms that are so popular in the marketing world. And I teach marketing. So I understand that that's kind of counterculture, but I really have learned, and even in my coaching program, it's not one of those big coaching programs with, hundreds and thousands of people in it, because I want to be able to know who's on the other end of that Zoom screen. So I always ask all of my clients, whether they're going to a speaking engagement or they're speaking online, or it's even a podcast. I'm like, how can you go deeper with a smaller group of people? Like, how can you really do the unsustained, do the unscalable? Like all these other people that are so big and they've scaled to all these big things, what can you do that they can't do that's going to make a difference? And so really doing that unscalable, the things and just going deeper with a smaller group of people has really been, I think, a second aha moment in my business.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Yes. I think you and I are very similar in that aspect as well, because to me, it is about the smaller, the one-on-one connection, having that. So yes, I really resonate with that.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Okay. What's another one?
Okay. I think my third one is, gosh, I get so many. Well, okay, I have two. So I'm going to give you this one and then it's going to lead into the other one. First of all, I have so many clients that come to me that they're just overwhelmed. There's so much information out there, and it's giving yourself permission that there is no one size fits all strategy. You really have to put everything through the filter of, is this right for my industry, for my business? And so it's just not chasing all the shiny objects. And I love to learn. I love to take courses. And that was back in my early years. I was spending so much time consuming and I wasn't taking action. And that's why I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm excited you bought that course, but what are we going to do about it? And you don't need to buy another course until you've actually implemented maybe something that you learned from the last course. So how can you be an action taker? And that begins with starting messy. I started my first coaching group with a Zoom link, a Stripe payment, and a Facebook page, a Facebook group. I mean, you don't have to have the platforms and all the fancy marketing materials and the emails. It's like, what can you do to just put the wheels in motion and stop sitting around and just staying in that state of like, I guess, stagnation and consuming. And so it's just, getting out of the overwhelm starts with starting messy, I guess would be the way to sum up my next aha.
Yes, yes. And for the overwhelm, let's talk about, I feel like there's a lot of overwhelm, especially with the clients that I work with. They are taking on so many things, right? Like their business is at a level that now they have so many things coming in. And so it really is about prioritizing the schedule and getting all the things done, right? Do you have any tips around that? Or has that been like, were you able to be efficient at that in your business?
So yes. And I have a little training that I do on it. But the thing that has helped me the most, and it's just like in anything you need to know, you have to know your numbers. You need to know where you're spending your time. So the first thing I always have my clients do is you need to actually pull out a 168-hour week. And I want you to log. It doesn't have to be forever, but track a week, track 2 weeks. Let's figure out where it's going before we know what to modify, because we need to know our numbers. So once you do that and you kind of see where you're spending your time, I'm like, all right, let's look at similar activities and see how we can batch them. And I think batching is a superpower. So what can you put together? If you, and are you doing, say for instance, are we doing networking and then we're running to meet with a client and then we're doing administration and then we're trying to post on social media? I'm like, all that task switching is going to exhaust you. So how can we batch it? Let's batch it and get it put together, as much as we can. Let's optimize the schedule. And then what helps me, and this is my favorite thing that I do in my business is, and it's not right for everyone. I know that people can implement it in different levels, but I have theme days in my business. So my Monday, I call Marketing Monday. It is the
Yeah.
first thing I do. I set aside every Monday and I either am creating content, recording podcasts with other people, but I actually put my own oxygen mask on first, because if I'm not doing what moves the needle forward in my business, how am I going to help everyone else? And then, so Marketing Monday, and
Okay.
like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do coaching calls.
Okay.
And then Wednesdays is networking, whatever types of networking, whether it's in person or whatever. And then Fridays, I think you need margin in your schedule. If you have every minute of every week booked, you're not going to have time. And, there's going to be holidays for kids. There's going to be the day that your world just, you just happens.
Yeah.
So I have Fridays as Flex Fridays. And it is my day to go and back clean up on everything that I may have missed and to catch it and tie up all those loose ends. And you know what? Maybe I even finish early and I can go get a massage, or I can, go shopping, just do something.
Yes.
And that really my goal is for my Flex Fridays is for me not to work the whole day, but I also have it to be able to in case I need to. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of business owners get to the point where they are looking for that 4-day work week. And so this is a way to do that, right? And then you have the Flex Friday of, if you need to, you can, or you get it down in your schedule that you're not, and you're having the 4-day work week.
And that is my goal, to not have to work any Flex Fridays. And I won't say that I'm really there yet. I probably work every other Friday, but at least I'm moving towards that goal so that I can have that day off.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, okay. That's a really good tip right there. So listeners, whether you call it batch calendaring, block calendaring, whatever you want to call it, theme days, however you want to think about it, that is the ideal way to have your calendar to be the most effective for you to be able to run your business.
And it'll look different for everyone, but you have to make it work for you.
Yes. Good. Okay. That's wonderful. As someone who absolutely loves marketing, I do have a couple questions for you specifically.
All right.
The whole digital landscape, right? And it can be very overwhelming for people, and to have an online presence and to leverage it and increase your awareness, and where do you spend most of your time, and all the things, right? All the noise. And I think, as you said it, you can take a class for every single thing. And this class is going to tell you to ramp up your LinkedIn. This one's going to tell you to ramp up your Instagram. This one's going to tell you better have a YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Like all the different things. So what's your advice on that? Do you have any tips? Just a basic tip.
So it's really more of a strategy. And the first thing is, there's not a one size fits all for all businesses. So if someone tells you they have the framework, that's your first red flag, because it may have worked for them, but it may not work for you. So Becky, you have to put it through the filter of, does this work for my industry, my business? And just a lot of things too. A lot of these big influencers out there, they grew their audience in a very different time. It was easy to scale on social media. It was easy to build big Facebook followings because it was easier back then. And now it's hard. They are really pushing people towards paid ads and advertising and stuff on social media. So you have to step back and, first of all, say, what works for my business? But before that, you have to really, we've all heard this term, but start with the end in mind. Where do you want to take these people? Do you have a place to take them? Because I see so many people just throw stuff up on social media. It's very haphazard, has no common thread. There's no commonalities. And then they're on social media and they're just, buy my stuff. I have this promotion, and all they're doing is just coming at you with their sales content, but they haven't done anything to build that know, like, and trust factor, to really create a relationship with me, or to maybe show up and add value. On the other end of the spectrum, I see people that just show up and add value, and then they never do an ask. They don't do anything to try and bring people on that journey. So I always say, figure out where your big audience is. Is it going to be at speaking engagements? Is it going to be, out on social media? And usually I refer to those are like restaurants. You don't control the tone. You don't control there's just so much in a restaurant you can't control, like who's at your table and all that. But what you can do is, once you're there, get some way to bring them into your world. And I like to do that through a lead magnet and get them on an email list. So then we can take the conversation from this big, loud, noisy restaurant into a more intimate conversation. Mm-hmm. And you can email people with different segments of your list or whatever, but you can really have those more intimate conversations. And that's where you are going to actually build that relationship. I always say it's from like going from the speed dating to, okay, let's actually go meet for coffee and see if we actually want to talk to each other and move forward in the relationship. Because again, you don't want to ask them to marry you in the restaurant. We gotta take them through that process.
Yes.
And then you can decide what's the best way, like what that end is. But just so your social media content should be the last thing you create. You should start with the content closest to probably your audience. Maybe it's a newsletter, maybe it's a blog, maybe it's your podcasting. Like where do you feel authentically aligned to actually create content? Like I love to podcast. I have the gift of gab. That is where I start to create my content. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I take it and I pull some stuff out of it and I make my social media content. But, they have that one piece of content, whether it's a dear, reader newsletter that you're writing every, but create it to the people that you really want to talk to, and then pull those little nuggets out and put them on social media. You can repurpose it, but don't try to create content for your newsletter and then go to try to create content for your podcast and then speaking and then your social media, because all of that is just getting exhausting and it's a hamster wheel and you will never get off of it.
Right. And I think the big thing to your point is that, social media is not ours. And you can have a gazillion followers on social media and that platform goes down and you don't have it. You don't have them anymore. And so I think to your point of getting people on an email list, I don't care what business you're in, you know what I mean? And emails still are read. They are read and people take action through emails. And I think that's just important for people to remember, of making sure that you are capturing that along the way.
Yes, they're 42% more likely to buy than someone on social. So, that's where you're going to build the relationships. And then you're not asking someone to marry you on social media. You're literally just asking them to take that next step and give them your email address and start communicating with them more intimately.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. For you, what do you feel like the challenges are you said you've been in business for 20 years. Through different avenues, but what do you feel like the challenges are that you still face as a business owner?
Oh gosh, I think it's as the world's always evolving, and marketing. I started my first business when there was no social media, so we had to go out and pay for ads and magazines and newsletters, and I remember like pounding the pavement and putting flyers on people's doors. So it was a very different world back then, and it's become very easy for people to grow audiences now on social media. And in some sense, we've kind of gotten a little lazy. We have this expectation that we should be able to put a post out and book 10 clients, and that, while that was a great time, it was almost like the .com boom back in the late 90s. Like it was this great utopia where it worked for a while. It doesn't work that way anymore. And to grow your business organically on social media now is really, really tough. So it's what's next? What does that look like next for me? Is it moving into doing more paid advertising? Is it doing things maybe that are not social media, going back to more SEO and speaking engagements? And again, I love podcasting, but thinking of things outside of social media, because if you approach this next business year of the same thing I did in the last year and the year before is going to work for me now, it's not. And so you have to look at the marketing landscape, what's working, what's not working, and how can we make those changes? So it's really, I guess, where to focus my time, attention, and marketing dollars in the coming, business year, with learning what's working and what's not working. So, and that, again, you have to look at that every year. It never stops changing.
And I think, what my takeaway from this, Shelly, is that you are a marketing genius and this is still a challenge for you in your business. Like you always need to stay current with it, stay up with it, evaluate it, reflect on it, figure out what you're going to do. And, I think that's important just for all the business owners out there.
you probably need help with this. If you don't have someone helping you, you probably need someone helping you because it's a big thing. And, most business owners love doing their craft. It's what we are good at, our craft, our zone of genius. And if it is not the marketing landscape, you got to get someone to help you because your sales funnel, your people you're bringing in, your pipeline literally is the trajectory of your business.
And that's right. You need to find someone who can help you. And I have a business coach. Even business coaches have business coaches. So you're never at a place where you can stop learning, and they can see the blind spots that you can't see.
Yes.
I think, I know what I'm doing, but then I have a coach that's like, have you thought about it this way? Or have you thought about it this way? So there's so much gold in having someone who's further along that journey that can just see the blind spots that you can't see. And that is like, and even with life coaching, like you're too close to your own stuff to see it. You need that person who can step back and think, well, have you looked at it this way? So that's why I love all kinds of coaching, because it really can take years off your journey because you have someone else giving you their wisdom and knowledge.
Yes, 100%. So for you, what are your goals moving forward for your business?
Well, first of all, back to what I told you at the beginning, building a business that allows me to build a life. I really want to be able, and this is a 5-year goal, I want to be location independent. I told you I have kids possibly going off to college in the coming years. And I just want the ability to have that flexibility to go where they go or see, just travel the world. So I'm actively building that business that could allow us to be location independent and be able to do that. But it's also, I want freedom of time, freedom of flexibility. So that's what I love about being a business owner. And when I do scale, I want it to be sustainable. So I want to say, what can I don't want to build this business that's so heavy and so complex that I've basically built myself another corporate job. I want it to be something that's my term is kind of great with grace and ease. So how can I give myself grace, because I'm not a expert at everything, but how can I make it be easy or fun or lighthearted and not this big, heavy? Because I see so many people, we build these businesses because we're making all these commitments. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do that. I'll teach this, or I'll scale to this number. And then they're miserable. And I don't want to be there. And so it's like back again, running everything to that filter of how can I build that business that allows me to build a life? So really creating a sustainable business that can go the long haul is huge.
Yes, that is, it's so interesting that you say that, because I'm actually using that word kind of around some of my marketing, especially for next year, because I feel like that is when we're looking at high performing professionals, business owners, whatever that is, not only is it the sustainable business, it's sustainable life, right? You know what I mean? Because you have to be able to sustain what you're doing, or there comes the burnout. There comes the crash. There comes and usually people have their wake up call when their health, and they think everything's fine, right? Oh, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it, until their health. And then they're like, oh, I ended up in the hospital. That was my story. Like, oh, I ended up this, blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, this is not sustainable. And so going at it from your angle of, I'm going to build this with that in mind, that just gives you right there, that gives you the competitive edge to me. Like, you will already have an advantage because you're doing it sustainable, as the people that have the peaks and then they're out there. I mean, that's why if you look at the statistics of why so many businesses fail within the first 5 years, and then more fail within the first 10 years, often it's that sustainability. And they don't have coaches, they don't have people to help them, they don't, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know, that is why.
I've seen it, and I was all three of my industries. The average time for a photographer is 3 years, and they're out because they're burned out. And to make it 10 years in that industry, you have to learn how to be, to be sustainable, because it's just that you see them go all in and then they're out, and they're like, yeah, they'll be out of business in 3 years, and they are, because they're exhausted.
Yes. So, okay, back to you. What is an accomplishment you're really proud of that you'd like to share?
I mean, it's almost personal, but it's the moving across the country. I literally my whole life was in Texas, and just walking away from everything I'd ever known and looking at my husband, and we are like, let's do this. And, our thing is we decided to let faith, not fear, be our compass, because I was really scared and I love my comfort zone. And I just, I love that. And we're like, we're going to just do this. And it was hard. I'm not going to say it was easy, but we have grown so much as a family. My kids are in a different part of the world now. They're getting different experiences. And just, I don't, my husband had a boss at the time, and we were debating it back and forth, and he's older than us. And he said, when you get to be my age, you don't want to have any regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the sentence that said, all right, I don't want to look back in 10 years and say, what if I had done that and have those regrets? So we did it. And it did, again, it took me on a whole different trajectory, personally and professionally and everything. But it was really kind of surreal and crazy to do that.
Yeah, that's great. I can relate to that as well. I went to California way back in the day for grad school. Then we moved to Colorado, my husband and I, and we lived there by ourselves. And then we did end up back in Missouri. But yes, just having that experience. And it is that I love, just the faith over fear. The faith over fear and stepping out of the comfort zone. I mean, that's just another aha that you continue to do over and over. Every time people pivot in their life, in their business, whatever, they're really stepping out of their comfort zone.
And it's
that
so
takes
hard.
A circle back to how you started, right?
Yes. But it's fun, and you'll never, I don't know, for at least on my end, I've never regretted it. There's times it's been hard.
Either. Yeah. Yes. I agree. No regrets either. This has just been a joy. I have one last question for you, because I think as a marketer, this is really important. And I think this can really help the listeners too. Imposter syndrome. It's a thing, and it's really a thing in marketing, right? Because it's one of those things where marketing, we need to toot our own horns. And yet we're trying not to be like ego driven and prideful. And yet we need to toot our horns. And then we have imposter syndrome because, that's just a thing. So how do you help your clients overcome that?
Well, first of all, as you know, it starts with a mindset shift.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're stuck in that imposter syndrome, your focus is on you.
Yeah.
And it's on, what will I look like? No one will take me seriously. And you're very egocentric, and you're focused on you. And I think you probably know this is a speaking tool too, but you look at the audience and you're thinking, like, how can I help them? Like, how can I serve them? And so you need to start with the mindset of your marketing it's how can I show up and serve others? Mm-hmm. And I always teach my clients to create, whether it's any kind of content, no matter what format it is, you want to create learn from me content, not look at me content. Mm-hmm. And you see so much look at me content, and you know exactly what I'm talking about on Instagram and Facebook, of people dancing and pointing or whatever they're doing. And that's not authentic. But if you, and I always tell my clients, I'm like, I want you to create your content outside of the platforms that you're, whatever it is. And I want you to sit down and really think about what problems you can solve and what kind of questions you get asked, and then create content around that, like answer those questions and really show up with a genuine heart to serve. Yes. And you have to remember, you don't have to be the expert of all experts. There will always be people that are further along than you on the journey, but your ideal client could possibly be you 5 years ago. Right. And you just have to know enough to help the person who's 3 to 5 years behind you in the journey. You don't have to be the top expert in your field on whatever subject it is. And actually, when you get to that point, that these people at the other end of the spectrum that have so much knowledge, a lot of times they're unrelatable because they're so much further along in the journey. They can't help the people who are just at the beginning. So you can really think of, how can I help whoever my client is, if it's you 3 to 5 years ago, and just think about the questions you had, the pain points you had, and create content around that, and show up with that service mentality. And the last thing is, people say, well, what if I post this and it makes me, I look stupid or whatever. And I'm like, well, what if you post it and it changes someone's life?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can pivot that and say, what if I don't like, what if I don't like the way I look, but what if the words coming out of your mouth completely inspire someone to take action and changes their life? So think about that, and it will transform the way you show up.
Yes, yes. And we always have to remember that people want to know what's in it for them.
Absolutely.
They don't care about you. They don't care what certifications you have, what you don't have, blah, blah, blah. They literally just want to know what your clients, no matter what product, what service, whatever you are selling, doing, they just want to know what's in it for them.
Think about how their transformation, and you can talk about that. And that's a great place to start.
That's right. Oh, wonderful. Well, Shelly, this has been a fabulous conversation. Where can people find you? First of all, let's start there. Where can people find you?
Okay. I have my podcast, as we talked about at the beginning. It's Educated, Empowered, Inspired. And it is a short coaching thing each week, just to learn. If you want to learn a little bit more about marketing or about growing your business, we talk about that each week. And then monthly, I have a branding business power hour. It is a business power hour. It's the fourth Wednesday of each month. We just show up and we do it's almost like a virtual lunch and learn. And I just teach on a topic about business, marketing, branding, that type of stuff, to just give you it's a small sampler of what we do in my coaching programs and my courses, but it just gives you enough each month that you can start to chew on some things. And if you're just in this beginning stage, those are great places to start, because you can even just start thinking about small steps you can take in your business each month to start getting that momentum of building your marketing.
Yes, excellent. Perfect. And I will put all the links down there, and you are on all social media platforms. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I will put all those links in the show notes so that you can connect with Shelly. If you do need help with your marketing, please reach out to her and have what do you call them? Discovery call?
Yes, a strategy call.
Strategy call. Thank
yes.
you. Yes.
And
Yep.
I teach a class about email. In fact, back to just where life leads you. Yes. I started doing my own, which is that I really lean into my email list, because that is how I have grown my business the most. And I had so many people asking me, they're like, how did you do that? Will you teach me? And I literally had 2 or 3 clients say, you're going to put a course together to teach us how to do that. And it is about the strategy. It's about knowing how to bring people from social media onto your list, because there's a whole strategy in that. And then what to say to them to nurture them. So I that's my passion. Is I think social media serves its place of the initial contact, but get people off that social media list. Off social media onto your email list, and really nurture them, because that's where you're actually going to do business together.
That's great. Did you say, is that an online course or?
It is. I read it twice a year. It's an online course. It's called From Social to Sales, and there's live. I do live Q&As during it and everything like that. So you have access to me as well to actually get the questions answered. And and I have that because I don't want you just to sit around and watch the videos. Each week you have a homework. You have a homework assignment. And the transformation is you can go from nothing to fully having a landing page, an email list, and sending your first email in 30 days. So you will have it done, because a lot of people don't know where to start. And so we take all that confusion out.
Oh, excellent. Okay. So if you need to grow your list, highly recommend that. All right, Shelly, thank you for joining us today, for being a guest on Winning in Business. I appreciate you. And listeners, share this, that you know someone that needs to listen to this also. So please make sure that you comment on this and share it with someone else who needs to hear it. And I will see you back next week for another episode of Winning in Business. And until then, rise up and live.
Thank you for being a part of the Winning in Business podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to rise up to your next level of success, but are worried about increased stress, time for work and yourself and your family, not to mention being exhausted, I'd like to invite you to a complimentary strategy call where I'll show you how you can do it all. I'll help you reclaim time, keep your sanity, handle the chaos with ease, and move to the next level of success that you deserve and desire. I hope you found value in listening today. Please always leave your comments, feedback, or questions. We check them all. I want you to continue winning in business and reach your next level of success. See you next time.